Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Annisya Agustin Cika Wijaya. I am from 5BA class. Today, in this opportunity, I want to tell you about my presentation. The presentation is the types of sampling. But before that, I want to tell you about what is the sample. A sample is defined as a smaller set of data that a researcher chooses or selects from a larger population by using a predefined selection method. These elements are known as sample points, sampling units, or observation. Creating a sample is an efficient method of conducting research. In most cases, it is impossible or costly and time-consuming to research the whole population. Okay, distinguishing between a sample and population. Before describing sampling procedures, we need to define a few key terms. The term population means all members that meet a set of specification or a specific criterion. For example, the population of the United States is defined as all people residing in the United States. A single member of any given population is referred to as an element. When only some elements are selected from a population, we refer to that as a sample. Okay. After that, I want to tell you about the types of sampling. Sampling has two types. There are probability sampling methods and non-probability sampling methods. Probability sampling methods is a method of deriving a sample where the objects are selected from a population based on the theory of probability. This method includes everyone in the population and everyone has an equal chance of being selected. Hence, there is no bias whatsoever in this type of sample. Each person in the population can subsequently be a part of the research. The selection criteria are decided at the outset of the market research study and form an important component of research. And the second type is non-probability sampling methods. The non-probability sampling method uses the researcher's discretion to select a sample. This type of sample is derived mostly from the researchers or statistician's ability to get to this sample. This type of sampling is used for preliminary research where the primary objective is to drive a hypothesis about the topic in research. Here, each member does not have an equal chance of being part of the sample population, and those parameters are known only post-selection to the sample. Okay, that is the advantages and disadvantages of probability sampling methods. For the advantages, first, the sampling technique reduces the chance of systematic errors. Second, the methods minimize the chance of sampling bias. And third, a better representative sample is produced using probability sampling technique. And the last, inferences drawn from sample are generalizable to the population. And for disadvantages, the techniques need a lot of efforts and then a lot of time is consumed, and last, they are expensive. And then for non-probability sampling methods, for advantages, first, the techniques need less efforts. The second, the techniques need less time to finish up. And the last, they are not much costly. And for disadvantages, the sampling technique are prone to encounter with systematic errors and sampling bias. And the second, the sample cannot be claimed to be a good representative of the population. And the last, inferences drawn from sample are not generalizable to the population. Okay, that there are types of probability sampling methods. First, simple random sampling, and the second, cluster sampling, and then systematic sampling, and the last, stratified random sampling. Okay, I will explanation one by one. Okay, simple random sampling. The most straightforward way of selecting a sample is simple random sampling. In this method, each member has an equal chance of being a part of the study. The objects in this sample population are chosen purely on a random basis, and each member has the same probability of being selected. For example, if a university then would like to collect feedback from students about their perception of the teachers and level of education, all 1,000 students in the university could be part of the sample. Any 100 students can be selected at random to be a part of the sample. The second is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is a type of sampling method where the respondent population is divided into equal clusters. Clusters are identified and included in a sample based on the defining demographic parameters such as age, location, sex, etc. For example, if the FDA wants to collect data about adverse side effects from drugs, they can divide the mainland US into distinctive clusters like stage. Research studies are then administered to respondents in these clusters. The third is systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is a sampling method where the researcher chooses respondents at equal intervals from a population. For example, while selecting 1,000 volunteers for the Olympics from an application list of 10,000 people, each applicant is given a count of 1 to 10,000. Then starting from 1 and selecting each respondent with an interval of 10, a sample of 1,000 volunteers can be obtained. And the last, stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling is a method of dividing the respondent population in distinct but predefined parameters in the research design phase. For example, a researcher looking to analyze people from different socio-economic backgrounds can distinguish respondents into their annual salaries. Okay, same as probability sampling methods, non-probability sampling methods also has types. First is convenience sampling, second judgmental sampling, third snowball sampling, and the last quota sampling. I will explain one by one. First, convenience sampling. In easy terms, stands for the convenience of a researcher assessing a respondent. There is no scientific method of deriving this sample. For example, researchers that are conducting a mall intercept survey to understand the probability of using a fragrance from a perfume manufacturer. In the sampling method, the sample respondents are chosen purely on the proximity to the survey desk and their willingness to participate in the research. Second is judgmental sampling. The judgmental sampling method is a method of developing a sample purely on the basis and the discretion of the researcher, purely on the basis of the nature of study along with his or her understanding of the target audience. For example, if the research topic is understanding what university a student prefers for masters, if the question asked is would you like to do your masters, anything other than a response yes to this question, everyone else is excluded from the study. And the third, snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is defined as a non-probability sampling technique in which the samples have traits that are rare to find. This is sampling technique. For example, while collecting feedback about a sensitive topic like AIDS, respondents aren't For example, while collecting feedback about a sensitive topic like AIDS, respondents aren't forthcoming with information. In this case, the researcher can recruit people with an understanding or knowledge of such people and collect information from them or ask them to collect information. And the last type is quota sampling. Quota sampling is a method of collecting a sample where the researcher has the liberty to select a sample based on their strata. For example, when a shoe manufacturer would like to understand from millennials their perception of the brand with other parameters like comfort, pricing, etc. Okay, I think that's all about my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.